This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Carrington. I'm the interim town manager for the town of Mansfield. Been the interim town manager since July 17th of last summer, 2019. And I'm normally the public works director, but I've been in this role for over 250 days now. And this afternoon, I'm going to give you the public information session on the town manager's budget proposal. So I'll be sharing the screen. You'll see the PowerPoint briefing more than you'll see me on the screen, hopefully. And today is April 8th, 2020, and this is the my proposed fiscal year 2020-2021 budget. This begins on July 1st, 2020, and ends on June 30th, 2021. I want to show you, and I'm going to switch screens here, that this proposed budget can be found on our town website. So I'm going to switch screens. So now, if you go, excuse me, to the town website, up here at Your Government, you go over here to Budget and Financial Information, and then down here you'll see Town Manager's Proposed Budget, and you can click on that, and you'll get the budget that I'll be addressing today. So that was just to show you how to get there. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. So now that you know where to find the budget, it's out there, and there's a link if you didn't get my instructions. This proposed budget is a starting point for the council, so it's my budget that I give to the town council. The town council is the one who will approve the final budget this year. As some of you may know and others may not, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the town meeting that normally takes place to approve the budget has been canceled this year, and the town council has been given authority by Governor Lamont to be the final decision authority on the final budget. This budget advances the council's goals and objectives, which are to preserve and maintain the quality of current programs and services. It's to maintain the pay-as-you-go capital plan and to increase the general fund's fund balance. But we created this budget back in December, January, so this was before the current pandemic. So, you know, we are going to be mindful, and the council will be mindful of the future impact of this pandemic that we're currently under. So the proposed budget for the town and Mansfield Public Schools is $44,093,040. With our Region 19 contribution of $11,105,535, the total general fund budget is $55,198,575. The capital non-reoccurring fund, which is our holding tank to transfer funds into the capital fund, is at $3,542,840, and the capital fund is $2,717,730. And the revenues we get for that will come from these three sources, and you'll notice that the revenue is a little higher than the budget number I just showed you. I'm going to go back a slide. Wrong way, sorry about that. So you can see 55,198,575, and here the revenues is 55,326,575. That shows a contribution to fund balance, which is $128,000. That's the difference between those two numbers. And what makes up this revenue? Where do we get our money to help pay for the proposed budget? Intergovernmental represents $18,374,870. That comes from the state, and that represents 33% of the budget. 2 years ago, when I was doing this presentation as interim town manager, a previous time, that represented 32% of the budget, the intergovernmental. So it's good that we're getting a little more from the state there. The taxes, which covers 65% of this budget, the taxes you pay on your property, either real estate or motor vehicles for most of you, is $35,680,505, which represents 65%. And other, which is from user fees, is $1,271,200, which represents 2% of the revenue, the money we would take in to help fund the proposed budget. So the revenue outlook comes from the grand list. So the preliminary grand list increased by 2.34% from last year, or the current year we're in, or by $25,942,587. Real estate grand list increased by 1.56%. Personal property increased by 14.73%, and motor vehicle had a very slight increase of 0.05%. We just came out of a reevaluation year, which was for October 1st, 2019, and much of the growth was due to additions to the grand list, and the two largest increases were the Nathan Hale Inn added $4,506,200 in taxable grand list, and Eversource added $9,076,560 in personal property. The revenue outlook, intergovernmental, this is again getting money from the state. We largely held flat in this area. Excuse me again, dry cough. There was a reduction in education cost sharing of $101,374. And then our pilot payment in lieu of taxes was held flat. This is a payment from state agencies in lieu of paying taxes. It was held flat, but as budgets increase, it continues to fall short of the funding. Of full funding, we should be getting 45%, and we're not getting that. And you can see this curve here, how back in 16, 17, we had a good increase, but ever since then, we kind of flattened out. And as this stays flat and the budget grows, it represents less and less percentage. So on this chart, also looking at is in blue bar is the calculated pilot grant. This is how much money we should be getting based on calculations. So for 2021, it's roughly $20 million, and this is the actual pilot payment, well below that number and even below $10 million. So there's the reimbursement rate percentage. So the blue line here is this, read to this on the chart for the percentage amount. The two bars read to this side. Now our expenditures, where does the money go? Again, that's a total of $55,198,575. 42% of it, or just under $23.5 million, goes to Mansfield Schools. Coming around in the clockwise motion, Region 19, as I showed on one of the previous slides, $11,105,535, or 20% of that expenditure is for Region 19. Working our way around, general government is 4%, or $2.2 million roughly. Public safety, which is fire and police, is $4.8 million, or 9% of the budget. Public works, which includes energy and facilities, is 7%, or about $3.6 million. Community services, 4%, just a little under $2 million. Community development, about $775,000 or 1%. And townwide is $3,457,670, representing 6% of the total expenditure. And other uses is $3,722,530 or 7%. And I just want to point out the notes here. Townwide includes employee benefits. So townwide up here, the 6%. Energy and facilities management operating costs are reflected in public works, 7% there. Other includes debt service and capital contribution. So right here, other. And this does not include our fund balance contribution, which I said before is $128,000. General fund expenditures, looking at the current year and the proposed year. The current year, the town was at $19,126,680 with a proposed change of $1,476,120, which represents a 7.7% increase. Mansfield Public Schools, as you can see, actually went down by $147,610 or a 0.6% decrease. Region 19 went down by $2,905, which is essentially a 0% increase, but it is a slight decrease. I want to make sure it's understood it's a decrease. And you can see we went from the current year, $53.872 million to a proposed of $55.198 million, which is an increase of $1.326 million roughly, or 2.5% increase overall. And this is what we need to maintain our services and meet the goals and objectives of the council. As I just showed in the previous slide, the overall net increase to town government was $1.467 million, or 7.7% compared to the current year. Most of this increase was due to obligated or non-discretionary increases. First, we have contracted salary increases, which represents $444,020. Debt service for our sewers at Four Corners is $289,750. We operate as a pay-as-you-go capital, and we're going to continue that. So that's $224,870. Our municipal employees retirement system is $201,820 increase. And other post-employment trust fund is a $65,000 increase, and energy a $41,500 increase. So the total of all those obligated or non-discretionary increases, things we have no control over, is $1.266 million or $2.67 million roughly, which is of that 7.7%, it represents 6.6% increase, things that are out of our control. That leaves the remainder, the proposed adjustments to operation and maintain services. We used to get an underage drinking enforcement grant that we lost. So to continue to do that, that's going to cost us $56,000. There's been some proposed additional staffing to include benefits. There's a shared communications position between the Board of Ed and the town. We would like to have a permanent communications person to help us get information out to the public, especially in times like the pandemic that we're going through. So there's a need for a part-time HR specialist position. That's $34,700. A full-time labor position in Public Works for roughly $75,000. We'd like to increase the police admin assistant by 7 hours per week, so it would be full-time. That's a $15,090 increase. We need to reorganize the human services, and the net cost of that reorganization to make sure we're providing services the best way we can is $32,240. There's an increase in hours for the shared IT admin assistant to make that a full-time position, and that would be $17,810. The total for all these proposed additional staffing is $220,260. And then there's a proposed overall decreases in operations of $67,100. So adding those together, the two increases and the one decrease, the total net current services adjustment is $209,160, which represents an increase of 1.1% overall. As I said earlier, there's an overall net decrease to Mansfield Public Schools. Their decrease is $147,610, or 0.6%. They have obligated salary increases of $394,680. They have an upgrade to their HR finance management system of $135,000. That's shared with the town. Facility repairs and energy, $64,000. Employee benefits, health insurance, and MERS, the retirement system, has a decrease of $337,300. Capital transfer has a decrease of $200,000. Outplaced tuition has a decrease of $175,000. And post-employment trust fund has a decrease of $109,870. Fund balance, this is where we want to keep our reserve. It's always been a goal to be between 10 and 15%. We've been trying to achieve 15%. You can see going way back in the early 2000s, 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, we were under 5%. Somewhere around 2011, we started growing, got up to 7% in 2013, 9.1% in 2016, jumped to 10.5% in 2017, and we continue to grow this year, staying flat and actually decreasing a little to 13.3%. But it's a good number. Wish we could go higher, but due to the circumstances, that's about as best we can do right now. Next is the capital and non-recurring fund. This is established by state statute, and it's used to transfer funds. The major source of funding for this fund comes from the general fund contribution of $2 million. Ambulance and user fees is $400,000, and the Pequot Mohegan grant is $179,150. And how would that money be used? We would transfer $2.6 million into capital, and into downtown stores infrastructure would be $117,730. And by its name, the capital non-reoccurring fund does not include reoccurring or recurring and non-capital expenditures. So it's used for capital and non-recurring things. The capital fund revenues, as we just discussed, capital non-recurring fund would be $2.6 million, or 73.4% of the revenue for the capital fund. The management services fund would provide $332,000, or 9.4% of the fund. LoCIP, Local Capital Improvement Program, which is an infrastructure grant from the state, would provide $185,000, or 5.2%. Our solid waste fund, between local trash removal and the transfer station, is $135,000 contribution, or 3.8%. The parking garage reserve would contribute $110,000, or 3.1%. Town aid road grant, $100,000 of that grant would be used for 2.8% of the capital fund revenues. Park and Recreation Fund would provide $55,840, or 1.6% of the capital fund revenues. And the Senior Center Association would provide $25,000, or 0.7%. So the total revenues for capital fund would be $3,542,840. Now, how would we spend that money? 1.735 million would be used on public works projects, or 49% of that total. Facilities management, which would support the town and the schools' facilities, $760,000 would be used, or 21.5%. For public safety, $293,000, or 8.3% of the fund. General government, $270,000, or 7.6%. Community services, $219,840, or 6.2%. Education, we get $150,000, or 4.2% of the fund. And community development, we get $115,000, or 3.2%, and that adds up to the same amount of revenue, $3,542,840. So now looking at each of those, public works on the previous slide, going back there, 1.735 million. That's some of the major projects in that. Road drainage and resurfacing would be $1.1 million. We had a study about 5 years ago that recommends we spend 1.4 million just on resurfacing, but a lot of our roads, besides needing resurfacing, need road drainage either replaced or installed, and therefore we can't really resurface 1.4 million each year because we have drainage to work on. So 1.1 million is adequate. There's other transportation projects, walkways, guide rails, and bridges for $115,000. We have some vehicle and equipment replacements for $380,000. Tree removal, which is a big concern in town, we have $90,000 to help with a contractor to support our tree crew. That's how many trees need to be removed that are dying from either the emerald ash borer or the gypsy moth damage from 2 years ago. And we want to put up a swap shop building, a permanent structure at the transfer station. For town buildings, the community center needs some repairs to include HVAC in the locker rooms for $175,000. That's heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Parking garage lighting replacement for $120,000. Bus garage repairs for $62,000. Town hall building repairs, $40,000. Public works building repairs, $35,000. And at all our buildings, roof repairs for $35,000. That's repairs, not replacement. Sorry. Education, school buildings, $150,000 would be for information technology infrastructure, and $150,000 would be for school building maintenance. Public safety, we need to replace a patient compartment of ambulance 607 for $170,000. We need to replace an ambulance stretcher and load system for $50,000. And we need to purchase some personal protective equipment, $25,000. In general government, we have a software upgrade for our human resources and financial system. It's a $255,000, and that's funded by the Management Services Fund. And community services, there's a need for a human services van for $64,000. There's some fitness equipment needed for $55,840, and that would be funded by the Park and Recreations Fund. And there's some playscape and park improvements for $80,000. Under community development, our zoning and subdivision regulations need to be written, and that would be $65,000. And implementation of the position and marketing plan for $50,000. So what does this all mean to the taxpayer? So I'm going to start on the right side over here. A median home in town, that So on October 1st, 2018, before the recent re-evaluation, the median home in town was worth $157,000. That's taking 70% of its full market value. And that equated to 31.38 mils was the tax rate for the current year we're in. And so a person in that size house would pay $4,927. That same home now in the year 2019 on October 1st, its median value was $159,500. So a slight increase for the median home price. You can see down here, median home price, it's 100% full market value is $227,860. And the 70% or the assessed value represents $159,500. The proposed current or proposed future, the budget we're talking about, 2020/2021 on July 1st, the mill rate, if taken as proposed, would be 31.53 mils. That homeowner would now be paying taxes of $5,029, which is an increase for the whole year of $102, or a monthly increase of $8.53, and I think it comes out to per day about 28 cents per day increase. So the mill rate increases from 31.38 mils to 31.53 mils, or a 0.15 mil increase, which represents a 0.46% increase from the current year. So less than 0.5% increase from the current year. And again, I showed how the median home assessed value increased from $157,000 to $159,500. Further breaking it down, of that median home, where did the tax dollars go? So of that $5,029, $3,151 or 62.7% goes to education. $441 or 8.8% goes to public safety, which is fire and police. Other financing uses, which includes our capital program to pay for projects like paving roads and buying vehicles, $339 or 6.7% goes to that. Public Works, to fund Public Works, $330 or 6.6%. Townwide expenditures, $315, 6.3%. General government, $201 or 4%. Community services, $181 or 3.6%. And community development, $71 or 1.3%. So that's where, of the $5,029, that's where it gets broken down to where your money's being spent. So in summary, highlights of the budget is it funds our current services, it continues our pay-as-you-go capital, and it continues to contribute to the fund balance. And again, I want to stress this is a starting point for the town council, and they will have to plan for the economic impact of the global pandemic. And we were given by the governor an extra 30 days from our previous, when we had the town meeting, so they can make their decision into June right now. We are conducting budget work sessions, which the public can watch from home. It's in a go-to-meeting format, just like this meeting, so you'll see a bunch of squares of people talking. Hopefully be sharing the screen, because that's more pertinent data, what you're seeing on the screen, than my face. They'll be live stream like this talk is on Town Hall Streams, and there's the link to that. Citizens may submit questions via email to budget2021@mansfieldct.org, and public comment for any meeting, public comment can be sent to us either by regular mail through the postal service prior to the meeting, or by emailing pub.com@mansfieldct.org. mansfieldct.org. And with that, I'm going to go over one that I did receive today. A public comment that came in at 11:21 today. This is from Betty Wasserman, and it's reference brief comments regarding town manager's budget, and it's to the town manager and the council. And she says this budget should include no new employee positions under any circumstance. And overtime with fire and emergency services is outrageous. Cut the fire department budget by that amount. And she notes that she will expand on her comments at a later time. And so if you submit comments like that, we will read them into the record at each meeting. And finally, upcoming budget dates. On Monday, there's a public hearing right at the regular time for a regular council meeting, 7 p.m. So again, if you have public comment, you can email them. There will also be a way to phone in and speak during the meeting, during the public hearing portion of the meeting, and then we would disconnect you. But that information is out there on the website under the agenda for Monday's meeting. Next Thursday, a week from tomorrow, Public Works, Enterprise Funds, other funds, and Parks and Recreation will be on at 6:30. I forgot to add Parks and Recreation. We didn't get to that last week. On the 22nd, the Board of Education and shared service departments will come before the council. On the 23rd, they'll discuss flagged items. Those are items that they want to discuss in more detail. On the 27th, the next council meeting, if they want to, they could adopt the budget prior to the meeting. There's a meeting prior to the regular meeting. There's a meeting at 6 p.m. And if they need more time, it can go on to April 29th. And again, with the 30-day extension, it can go on into May. So that will be determined. So that is all I have for today on the public information session. I hope I was helpful in making you understand the proposed upcoming budget. And again, if you have any questions on the budget, you can submit them to this email address, budget2021@mansfieldct.org, or any public comment that you want to give at any public meeting that accepts public comment. You can send an email to public pub_comm@mansfieldct.org. And I hope you all have a great afternoon. And I know we have some holidays coming up tonight and this weekend, and I wish everybody a joyous holiday season under these conditions of the pandemic. I know it's not what we're used to, but try to make the best you can of it. And everyone have a great day, and thank you.
This conference is no longer being recorded.